Good morning, YouTube. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it is a thunderstorm right now. It is expected to thunderstorm all day. In my eating disorder recovery, since I began to eat, I have had a hard time controlling binging. It scares me because it used to be so easy to control what I ate and decide to binge. Now I seem to have a large appetite that I have little control over, and my urges to binge are like an endless, legitimate hunger that just doesn't stop. I'm hoping that I just have to be patient until everything recalibrates and I'm not so hungry all the time anymore. I also need to be really mindful, as much as I can be, about trying to rein in the eating reasonably and honoring what is real hunger and not what is anxiety, not what is insomnia. I need to find other habits to substitute in those places to keep my hands busy, to keep my mind busy during the times when I'm waking up in the middle of the night over and over and over again, and I'm not thinking and I go straight to the fridge. During the times that I know I can't possibly be hungry anymore and I'm still eating. There's something else my body is craving, and I need to focus on distinguishing between the two. But I did say that I could get huge. I will allow myself to get big, no matter how uncomfortable that is for me. It is okay to be uncomfortable in life, if the end result is for a positive reason. Sometimes we have to be uncomfortable to get to where we're going. So if I continue, as I have been steadily for 2 months, to put on more and more and more weight, I'm just going to have to trust that this is a time thing. It will level out with a little bit of awareness and effort on my part. It'll fall back into equilibrium, and gaining weight is not the worst thing in the world. I just have to continually come to terms with this process and with the way that I look now. The biggest change is my face. I don't know how perceptive the rest of you are. I do have BDD after all. But, I mean, it's kind of clear in the earliest videos to now, but for me it's very evident even in the most recent videos to a week ago, how much rounder my face has gotten. And it looks even rounder because I had about 2 inches hacked off my hair to get rid of the dead ends, and I gotta wait for it to grow back out. But I have to just get used to this. Looking funky is not the end of the planet. Again, I have to remind myself, I did not have self-esteem when I was at a weight that I liked. I didn't see it, and I didn't like myself. And now I look backward, and I'm like, if I could just be 10 pounds less, which is nowhere near as low as I was, if I could just be 10 pounds less than where I am now, I would be so thrilled. I would be happy. I would be content. It's a healthy weight. I would like to stay there. I would be thrilled to be that size again. I would be thrilled to be able to eat like that again. Not to steadily, week after week, put on more and more weight. Patience, bringing problems to a reasonable end. I wish I'd worn the same jeans so I could stand up and show you I have the same shirt on that I had on the last time I did this video, this type of a video, 2 times ago. But I still have some eating disorder behaviors that I need to work on. And this can be extended to life behaviors. I binged through the night and into the morning because I didn't sleep. It's not the only reason, but I had too much. I had too much. Definitely too much. I'm not going to get into specifics, but it was not, no, she thinks she eats too much, she eats too much. No, I binged. But I know how much I binged, because I binged on things with nutritional information on them. And I had anticipated what's been happening when this happens is damage control and compensation to the best of my ability. I have been walking between my job and the extra walking that I do about 9 to 11 miles a day. The extra walking constitutes about 3 miles, so that the total for the day of extra burning that I'm doing between my job and the walking equals out those binges. And I have been walking not for enjoyment, but walking because I feel like I'm required to. Walking because I keep gaining weight, and I know that binge alone, a couple of those is 1 more pound, and it's so much easier to put it on than it is to take it off, especially when you start recovery and you're starting from scratch as far as a normal human appetite. It's berserko. It has been a compulsion. And so today, given that I've had too many binges together recently and I'm not working, I had anticipated walking that walk 2 different times equals 6 miles so that I could be close to what I need for the rest of the day, so that maybe by the end of the weekend, or the end of the day, I could burn around what the binge was. However, thunderstorm all day. So, I have been feeling very uncomfortable this morning because I know what I did and I cannot compensate. The compensation alone is exhausting. My legs hurt. My body's tired. I haven't been sleeping hardly at all, and yet I walk and I walk and I walk and I walk and I walk. And I'm not getting pleasure from the walks because I have to. I'm so tired. Physically and mentally from lack of sleep and overdoing it. But I wasn't going to take a day off because I can't. I can't because of what I just did. So, every thing in life is an opportunity to learn. I sat with discomfort for a while and I kept walking to the door, contemplating bundling up somehow. Should I bring an umbrella? Well, it's actually storming, not just raining. I'll get struck by lightning. To get soaked and do 2 loops twice, which is a 6-mile walk, in a thunderstorm to make up for what I did, and whether I should do that or not, and frantically uncomfortable. And I realized, I caught myself. Accept reality as it is. Let go of your mistakes. A person with an eating disorder doesn't do these things because they want to. It's not fun. They do these things because they have to. They feel as though they have to. And some of these things you don't even realize are the illness. It's an obsession like OCD where you have to go back because you're sure that you left the pilot light on your stove and you just have to go back and check it, and you have a guttural, disgusting, I'm gonna vomit, sick feeling if you do not do that, and it just plays again in your head and again in your head, this deep urge to do that thing. Whether you're at your job and it would be really inconvenient, or you've driven 300 miles from your house and now you got to turn around and drive 300 miles back, and you will do it because you got OCD. And till you don't. And I have said to accept reality as it is. Not the way you want it to be, not the way you wish you would have done it, as it is. And without over-exaggerating, as it is. So if I gain 1 more pound on the many pounds that I said I was going to gain, it's just 1 more pound. And I will have a long, patient journey to my equilibrium anyway. It's not the end of the planet. It's not anything to beat myself up over. And I do not have to compensate. Actually, I'm probably setting myself up for binging more because I feel ill and my body is compelled to seek anything to make it feel better. because I have been compensating. I've been listening to my illness, and that doesn't go along with my goal to get better. So any breakaway I can make for my illness, the better. So accepting reality as it is, not catastrophizing, letting go of problems, letting go of mistakes without judgment, without going back in your head. In an eating disorder, if you make a mistake, that's one of the crux parts of an eating disorder. If you make a mistake, you pay. You pay. If you make a mistake, no matter how ridiculous the rules of your disorder have become now, how far out there in mental illness land those rules have become. If you make a mistake, you pay for it. You pay for it with really negative emotions, with that deep OCD-like pull to compensate, and you are told, like an abusive partner, you're 5 minutes late getting back from the store, you will pay. You misbehaved, you're a laundry list of negatives and failings, and you have to fix it. You have to fix it double, because you did all these things wrong. All these things wrong according to the illness. And you have to compensate. You have to pay double. So it sets up this natural wiring in your brain to not let go of problems, to hold to problems, to self-identify yourself as a negative for an action you did. My mom used to say something. She said, I may say something you did was stupid, but I will never say you are stupid. Because she was called things when she was young. And she knows what that's like, that differentiation. Your illness wires your brain to say, you are your mistake. So if you do something bad, you are bad. The only way you can be bad, it's a little bit more bad every time, is to pay for it. To prove your love and pay for it again. In double. And this type of thinking ends up expanding to all things in your life. That's why a high propensity of people with eating disorders, especially the restrictive type, tend to be perfectionists. Goes with the territory, because you negatively self-identify anything less than anything seen as a mistake. And chicken before the egg, cart before the horse, which came first? That mentality, or the eating disorder, that mentality goes on to watch their food, and they're hypervigilant for anything less than their full effort. They self-identify that as, I am bad because I did bad. And each and every time has such a high permanency that it's now or it's never. It's always. Every one thing has like this expansion to beginning and end of the universe, beginning and end of your identity, beginning and end of your life, that it has always been you fucking up. You're not doing your full effort. And you hold yourself to these standards, and you don't realize it, because the illness, it's you. It's you. It's habit, and it's you. And that's how it's possible for us alone to break it. Oftentimes we need help. We need help because we're so sick we don't know where we're sick. And we can't not respond to what we believe to be true, even though it's like OCD that we don't realize that it's not true. It's all up here. It's not a possession. It's not another person. It's not as easy as deciding not to do these things either, as people without this experience would think. Otherwise, people would just choose not to do it. Nobody likes to suffer. Suffering isn't fun. There's a few masochists in the world, but they can pick more fun ways to suffer. Or you can go the spiritual route and become a monk or a nun and suffer, or some great guru and suffer through walking a bed of nails and denying yourself of all earthly pleasures. There are other ways to suffer. People don't pick mental illness. You know, I don't wake up one day and be like, yeah, I'd like to be really screwed up. I'd like to have OCD. I'd like to have agoraphobia. I'd like to have an eating disorder. I'd like to be bipolar. I'd like to be schizophrenic. It doesn't happen. It happens, but it's not like something we choose. But some illnesses can be undone by choice and action and treatment and effort, a lot of effort. And that's fantastic that some illnesses can be treated. PTSD can be treated. Anxiety disorders can be treated. Eating disorders can be treated. Addictions can be treated. These things can kill you, or you can kill them. And how great is it to have diseases that have natural cures? You didn't know you walked through the rabbit hole, but once you're there, you can work your way out. Back sort of to the point. So, I'm sitting here trying to figure out if I'm going to walk for 6 miles in a thunderstorm, with or without an umbrella. And I realized that I'm being willful, not willing to accept the mistake, not willing to let it go, not willing to let go of my notions of what I should look like, what I should be, how I should behave, not willing to let go of the eating disorder entirely. I'm not accepting reality for what it is. I'm not letting go. I'm not 100% in. So this is a chance to catch myself in my wrongs, that I'm not taking care of myself. If I'm willing to do exercise for the specific goal of burning calories when I know I'm not physically well, that's not for the overall good, that's not the overall goals. And so self-insight here, it's okay to be uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable sometimes. That I can withstand this urge. I can withstand any consequences. And it will not be the end of the planet, and it will be okay. And I am okay regardless. So practicing sitting in this discomfort, being forced to sit in this discomfort that if it weren't storming, I know I wouldn't do. I know I would be compensating. Now, I could suit up head to toe and just go, but I decided instead to utilize this opportunity for good and to challenge my eating disorder despite a massive binge, to not compensate. Not just regularly compensate, but to not compensate. Stop those little loopholes that it sneaks through, and try to be okay with myself regardless. A lesson also here that is useful is that mistakes have consequences. Positive actions have consequences. We just don't call them consequences. We call them results. The more often that I give in to the desire and the urge to binge, that I do not stand strong and employ anything else to do that, and then I compensate, the more exhausted I'm going to be, the more likely I'm going to binge. Sooner or later I will find myself back into full-fledged eating disorder behavior. It sets me up for negatives. And through the act of compensation, not only does it fatigue the body and exhaust your mental reserves to the point where you're more prone to engage in your other behaviors as well, even if you are a restrictive type, if you are engaging in compensating for normal eating, with physical activity, you've got one foot in and one foot out, and you are more prone to want to go back. Severing the cord completely, just like in a domestic abuse situation, is the best. And anytime you catch yourself with one foot in, one foot out, you need to try and challenge that so you can realize that when both feet are out, it's still okay. Everything is okay with both feet out of the disorder, both feet out of the relationship. You don't know until you go how that's going to be, and if you've still got one foot in, you're likely to go back, and at minimum you're not able to prove to yourself that you don't need it. You don't need this in your life. You don't need this dysfunction. You don't need this abuse. You don't need this control in your life to be okay. And you're more than just your looks. There's more good to you than your looks. There's more good to you than your ability to control your weight. You have more abilities than that, and that it's okay to be imperfect, through and through imperfect. And it's okay to be unproductive. And it's okay to make mistakes. That mistakes will happen. They're not the end of the planet. But when they do, just like any other decision, positive decisions have consequences. Negative decisions have consequences. And as much as this feels like a compulsion, eventually you will get strong enough to realize it is a decision. And to control it better. I have faith in that, even the areas that I cannot control it at all right now, which is the binging. And the appetite, because I had no control in other areas, and I've now gained control, that I presume, logically, you learn from history, that all of these areas I will gain control in. I just have to have patience, faith, and effort. But if you compensate for a mistake, you are more likely to make the mistake the next time, versus sitting through the consequences of your own behavior. If we sit through the consequences of our own behavior, Doing things negative, truly negative, doesn't feel good. That's why we have emotions, so we don't repeat our mistakes. We do things that are positive because they make us feel positive. We don't do things that are negative because it doesn't feel good and we're like, ooh, we shouldn't do that. It didn't feel good. The more you compensate for your emotions, the more, and your mistakes, your binges, your restrictions, the more you compensate, the more likely you are to binge again because you didn't have to deal with the consequences. There's a get out of jail free card at the end of this. The less likely you are, just like avoiding all problems in life, you have to sit with the consequences of your own behavior. You have to sit with the consequences of your own mistakes. Realize they're not the end of the planet, and it's okay to make mistakes, but you cannot avoid the consequences of your own decisions. Decision, indecision, positive decision, all has consequences, and if you avoid the consequences, the more likely you are to not be trained and conditioned and to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again, because you're not sitting with your own consequences. So not compensating, I will pay for it, and I should learn to accept that until I don't make that mistake again. It combats the disorder, it combats self-acceptance, and it actually helps me heal my body from the overuse I've done, disprove my disorder, and be less likely to binge again. So those are my thoughts this morning, this rainy morning. And I have to think of something else to do with my morning than compensation, which is the negative thing I've been doing. Back to a healthful routine. Winter's coming just in time. Love you guys. Bye, YouTube.